What's up, guys? Sin here, and today there's a couple things I want to talk about. First being the obvious absence of really any new content coming through from me. I've just been busy doing real life. I don't have some glamorous, overly dramatic explanation as to why, I've been playing video games in my downtime and playing Flesh and Blood, which is what the topic of today's video is, as to why I haven't really been making content. I wouldn't say I've lost any drive to. I just kind of took a back seat for a hot minute so I can, kind of get life on track and make sure life stays on track. As you can tell by the beard, I'm still in the process of that. Once I feel like I'm good enough to, really dive back at it, we'll clean up a little bit, but, I've actually been feeling the best that I felt in a very long time. And that's thanks to a couple things. Firstly, being the ability to just kind of sit back and enjoy new games that are coming out without the whole pressures of, meeting deadlines for content or trying to push out, the next big video on something. I played Elden Ring. I'm on New Game Plus 4. I'm currently driving through Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. But outside of that, if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I have become, over the course of the past 6 or 7 months, maybe a little bit longer than that, I've become a huge fan of a trading card game called Flesh and Blood. If you hang out in any of the trading card scenes, whether it be Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, there's Yu-Gi-Oh! If you play any of those games, I'm sure you've heard somebody somewhere, whether it be at your local game store or just in Discord, talking about a game called Flesh and Blood. So, I started playing this game 6 to 7 months ago, maybe a little bit longer now. I'm kind of losing track of time over here. It seems like every day it's a new month. But I started playing the game. Well, first off, what actually ended up happening was I'm from the Pittsburgh area, and I went to a convention that is held 3 or 4 times a year. It's kind of like a Comic-Con. It is a Comic-Con, called Steel City Con. And at Steel City Con, mind you, this was at the height of me playing and kind of making Magic the Gathering content and playing in my local game store and really building a relationship with the folks over there, that I happened upon a dude who had 2 boxes of Flesh and Blood that he was selling for $50 each. Coming from Magic the Gathering, I was like, $50 for a booster box. And at the time, I was like, that's insane. No way. But for the con, he ran just a small game store, and I guess he had some in his personal collection he just wanted to get rid of. So I didn't know anything about the game. I had watched a couple of videos on YouTube of folks explaining how the game worked, and I was very interested in checking it out. So I bought his only box of Unlimited Monarch, which, Monarch, I know now. But I bought a box of Monarch, and I constructed a couple decks out of it. They weren't great, obviously. It was the first time playing the game, didn't really know what the hell was going on, and kind of just wanted to see how it went. So I had these decks, and then I realized, I'm like, well, all my friends play Magic the Gathering. It seems like it's going to be difficult to convince a lot of my core MTG group to kind of, jump into another game and stick with it. So one day I was just playing Magic the Gathering at my local game store, and one buddy who worked there at the time was like, hey, have you heard anything about Flesh and Blood? My ears perked up, and I was like, I have a couple decks. If we could, if you have cards, and he had cards at the time. If you want cards, if we want to play here at the shop, we can try playing. I have a couple other people that are interested in trying it out. So I said, okay, yeah, cool. Let's set up a day, and we can come to the shop and just kind of learn the game together. And so it brought us all together. This was probably about July of last year, so I guess it is longer than 6 to 7 months. But we started playing the game then. Once again, we all really had no idea what we were doing at that exact moment in time. And we decided, okay, cool. Yeah, we really like this game. So we kind of just dove in from there. We kind of dove in, you know, in the middle of all that was my wife and I's move. So we, you know, I didn't really have a lot of money expendable at the time. So it's kind of hard for me, prior to the release of Tales of Aria, which is the set that came after Monarch. It was kind of hard for me to catch up with where my fellow players were at, the people that we were playing with at the time. And over that course of time, around that same time period, we started kind of going to other shops in the area to play the game, and we were meeting other people in the local community, and it kind of became a thing of like, oh wait, you guys play here, we play here on a different night, why don't we all play at all of these shops throughout the week? And it kind of grew into like this united play group within the area, because still I would venture to say, even in my area here, it's a little difficult to find a big large group of people that play Flesh and Blood. You know, you go to your game stores, you have your Yu-Gi-Oh, your Pokemon, your Magic the Gathering. Those are although the games that have been around for much longer. A lot of folks playing those games. Cool. And absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. I still play Magic. I still play Commander from time to time. I've taken a little bit of a backseat so I can kind of get that barrier of entry catch up into Flesh and Blood. So yeah, we've all been playing for the past 6 or 7 months. I'm a huge fan of the game. I play in Blitz right now. I'm playing Kasai for Warrior, as we all know, in Everfest, the most recent supplementary set. Kasai got some pretty nice buffs. You know, I'm growing my cold foil collection, as you can see behind me, just playing weekly armory events and going through that whole thing. I recently broke the news to my play group that I have a YouTube channel and play on, and play video games on Twitch and all that. So now they're all encouraging me to start making more Flesh and Blood content as well. And I'm welcoming them to be involved. So as long as they're cool with being part of content, I'm cool with having them. So I would say expect that soon. The one shop that we play at, the owner, the guy that runs the events and, has been absolutely phenomenal to us, has kind of opened up the back of the shop to me and said, hey, if you want to start filming games here, go ahead. And I might just take him up on that offer if we can get things set up the way we want them to be. So I'm not done streaming on Twitch. As most know, that is also a time sink, and I kind of just have to, between day job, playing my hobbies outside the house, which I believe it or not, outside of the gamer mentality, I think is very important. That's where I'm at. And I really think it's important to get out and do something other than just sit inside and play video games all day and edit videos. And I know right now we're still kind of in the middle of a, worldwide pandemic, so it's a little bit more difficult. So disclaimer, if you're going out to play games, make sure you're doing it safely. Get vaccinated, whatever it is, right? Abide by rules and be respectful of your fellow human. So really, I know you guys all expect video game content from me. I'm sorry that this isn't video game content. I would really also like to shift into Flesh and Blood content. So for those that want to stick around and hang out and ride that wave with me, please, I very much look forward to the discussions and the chatting and kind of just going from there. But circling back around, and this builds off of, I'm getting to a point, this builds off of what I said. I was trying to catch up to my peers within my local game community that have been playing the game much longer than I have, because Flesh and Blood first kind of showed up, I believe it was like 2019, 2020, around that time period in the US, and a lot of those folks already have the major staple cards. Now, for those that don't know, some of the staple cards to play, you know, somewhat competitively, right, are relatively expensive for someone that's just trying to kind of break into the game. So I'm happy to kind of talk about it today, where Flesh and Blood 2.0, and for those who are familiar with Flesh and Blood 2.0 and you're here for my kind of analysis, you're going to get it. You're going to get my thoughts. But mind you, this is the thoughts of someone that is kind of trying to bridge that gap between being a casual player and someone that plays competitively. A lot of the folks in my local Flesh and Blood scene, they play competitively. Okay, so, you know, I've won some games, I've lost some games, and that's essentially where it's at. I don't necessarily believe that cards, the more expensive the cards, the likelier your chances are to win. It's nice to have some of those pricier cards that do very well in competitive matches, and sometimes they are game-changing, sure, but I don't always think it's a necessity. So with that being said, we're gonna spend maybe the next 10 minutes just kind of going over James White's Flesh and Blood 2.0. So there's 3 parts to this. I'm gonna go over each part. This is on their website, FABTCG.com. And wow, holy shit, is this a fantastic article that James wrote here. You know, the top part is just, you know, explaining that the game has grown exponentially over the past 2.5 years since Flesh and Blood released. And just having experienced the game and the scene around it in the past, say, 10 months or so, I'd say, yeah, it has grown. It has grown. We have, you know, major events being held. You know, on professional levels, we have stores that once, when this all started back in 10 months ago, I had talked to that said, we don't have an interest in hosting local groups, is now they're now interested in hosting local groups. It's the player demand is it's starting to snowball, right? And with that comes several different challenges that LSS, Legend Story Studios, has to kind of rise to meet, not just for the competitive players, but for the casual players as well. And having that diverse spectrum of casual and competitive, and even if you're just somewhere in between, which I would say is where I lie, this article's got everything for you. Okay, this article is a banger. And essentially, part 1, they're retiring the first edition sets, you know, citing that they want to focus on playing rather than, you know, a first edition set releasing in boxes flying off the shelves to not necessarily be played with, but to sit away. And if you're a collector, I'm a collector, I'm fine with this. I'm personally okay with this because, you know, the goal and the mission and the vision is to essentially have product to crack open and play with day 1 of a set. So I'm not going to pretend I really know more about all of this than that, but it's just, you know, when you read the article, it tells you that their mission centers around playing the game. It therefore goes without saying that we need fans to be able to obtain cards on release day to play the game. Alongside our commitment to playing great games is our love for collecting, which we see as an important and beautiful element of all trading card games. James then goes on to say that he's been personally an avid collector of cards since childhood, and that same love is shared by the core of the LSS team. It's an important part of the DNA of Flesh and Blood. I agree with that, and that's why they originally developed it at first ed. So when it released, the player base was very small, and the first edition print runs were sized accordingly. They would then go to produce larger unlimited edition print runs, which then of course included the rainbow foils versus the potential to pull cold foil treatments on cards. And that was to support player growth. And the approach worked well when the ratio of first edition to unlimited was heavily tilted towards unlimited. Today, the player base is large and growing, with organized play engagement numbers regularly setting new records on a weekly basis. A very large volume of boosters is needed on release day for fans to play the game. This, however, has upset the balance of First Ed versus Unlimited to the point where First Ed is no longer the special thing it was intended to be. I can agree with that. And I only say I agree with that from the context of Tales of Aria and Everfest. And this is just a personal experience, a personal perspective. I can't go into a store, a game store, and buy Welcome to Wraith First Edition, Arcane Rising First Edition, and Crucible of War First Edition. Why? Because those were short print runs, right? All of that's essentially counted for. Those sets, even the Unlimited, are out of print completely. I can maybe go to a store and find just a First Edition Monarch box sitting there. It's still probably going to be relatively expensive. And Unlimited is all over the place, right? Like it's everywhere. You go into a store and you'd be like, hey, yeah, just $80 Monarch box, give me that, right? And then Tales of Aria. I mean, you got Tales of Aria. Oh my god, I can find First Edition Tales of Aria boxes till the cows come home, dude. There's really no significant difference between Tales First Edition and Tales Unlimited. Tales First Ed, I can walk into a shop and get a Tales First Ed box for like $120 if I really want to try and pull a cold foil legendary or a cold foil anything, right? You don't have trouble finding those boxes. They're very much within the realm of affordability when it comes to going to purchase a box. I'm not, once again, not pretending to know what happens on the distribution side or the print run side, but I agree with this point that there really is not a large gap between First Ed and Unlimited, at least when we're talking about more recent sets. I mean, Tales and Everfest Unlimited is not even coming till September, I don't think, at this point, and I could go to a shop and buy a box of First Edition Everfest like that. So much of it has been opened. I don't know how much of it's been printed. We don't have those print run numbers yet, but you know how that goes. So yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it just seems a little like, why is there a difference when you could do what they're going to do in this next paragraph? We could have gone down this route, making cold foils only available in premium collector's product, but that simply does not align with the vision I have for Flesh and Blood and the community. Call me old-fashioned, but I want every fan who cracks a Flesh and Blood booster to have a chance of the moment of joy when you open a cold foil, legendary, or a fabled. That moment of joy is priceless. So what's the plan? And this is the good stuff. Starting with Uprising, releasing on June 24th of 2022, there's no differentiation between First Ed and Unlimited. There's just one set, Uprising. Flat line. No First Ed, no Unlimited, just Uprising. Just is what it is. It includes both the cold foil and rainbow foil equipment fabled in alternate versions of cards, which I can confidently say are the most impressive alt arts we've done yet. That has me excited because the alt arts that they have already done are fantastic. So here's how they're kind of shifting it. So the cold foils are still a sought-after collector's item. Legendary and fabled cold foils in Uprising are around 3 times rarer than they have historically been, offset by rainbow foil versions that are slightly more frequent than the past. Essentially, and you'll see it here, legendary cold foils are 1 per 220 packs, give or take. Legendary rainbow foils are 1 per 80 packs. Now, that's not necessarily guaranteed. I mean, that's just a generic ratio of, this is what you should expect to see. All of this here is very good. Bouncing back up, they refer to the rarity of these new cards. They have some new cards. It's a purple triangle. They're called Marvels, and these will be used for the higher tier alternate art versions of cards going forward. The frequency of each Marvel card varies. Some of them are equivalent to past alts, such as Earthlore Bounty's full art, and some are harder to find, like the Herald of Erudition or Ether Wildfire. All cards with the Marvel rarity symbol are much rarer than normal foil versions their base rarity would be. Okay, so that's good. So I really like this. I personally love that. You can check that out. And this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been waiting for. I'm so happy for this. From the perspective of a casual player that was, or a casual kind of like mid-level, like casual, between casual and competitive player, I love what they're about to do, because I am essentially in a predicament where I am too early to the party to have experienced the ability to pull these cards early on, and I'm too late to the party to be able to reasonably afford some of these now. I'm in that in-between. Okay, now on one side you have the collectors that already have all these cards. Doesn't really matter. They might even be, I mean, those people are the, you know, they're the collectors, they're the competitive players. Great. I love that. And that, you know, I have legendaries myself that I've pulled. I've only ever purchased one legendary outright, and that was my Arcanite Skullcap from Arcane Rising. They're releasing a history pack. The history pack is a booster set that includes reprints of cards from Flesh and Blood's past, printed in white border with no foils. History pack 1 includes cards from Welcome to Wraith, which is the first set, Arcane Rising, and Crucible of War. And as you can see, here are some examples. Dorinthia, I mean, this is a token hero. I'm not even gonna lie to you, I have probably like 100 Dorinthias. I've got Dorinthias for days, okay? But Fyendal Spring Tunic, this is a card that currently, as of last night I checked, an unlimited rainbow foil of Fyendal Spring Tunic is $180, okay? So, and it's out of print now. It's out of print now. Both sets that had Fyendals in it are out of print. So what do? You take kind of all the greatest hits for the past 2 years, you bundle them up in one box, still a booster box, you may not pull them, but you repackage it into one product and put it back out, saving the integrity and value for the collectors of the old original versions of the cards and allowing new players to be able to play the game at that higher level should they wish. Fyendal Spring Tunic is almost a necessity in some of the more aggressive decks. That extra resource on that third turn can shift entire turns. Command and Conquer is a great sideboard card. You see this card played in almost every single deck. Rune Blades, Warriors, it's everywhere. Okay, you know, Become the Arknight, not as rare, but it is a majestic, it is a specialization, and it is for a hero that has not reached Living Legend yet. So if you want to play Viserai, here you go. You know, these are reprints that are going to be great for new players and going to be great for original ones. Gorganian Tome. This card's like, I think at last I checked, the Rainbow Foil Unlimited Gorganian is like $70. It's like $70. And it's I understand why. I do think it's kind of ridiculous some of these cards are as expensive as they are looking at you Command and Conquer. It's a great card, but I don't know. I hear varying opinions on that. So let me know what you think about Command and Conquer. But, you know, they're doing localized European languages for the history packs for the first time ever. So, you know, folks over in Europe, you know, French, German, Italian, and Spanish history packs will have your language. You know, I think that's awesome. I love that, you know, we can share this game on a worldwide scale. I don't think it should be limited to any specific area, and I definitely applaud LSS for pulling this one out. History Pack 1, they're just talking about it. The next History Pack is planned for 2024, so you could probably see in History Pack 2, I would think, you know, we're going to see whatever staples come out of the next set, Everfest, Monarch, Tales of Aria, at that point in 2024 when they're inevitably, you know, out of print or whatever it might be, right? Part 2, playing the game is more about competitive play. I very much like this. more storytelling, world building, character development, integration of lore into the play experience. I love this as somebody who spent so much time reading the lore of Magic the Gathering outside of just playing the game. I love when these card games have kind of a lore aspect to them. I think it makes the act of actually playing the game seem a lot more fun when you can kind of put yourself into that story. I love that. So, you know, they want to eventually have some type of lore books that'll eventually get put into products and placed in. I think the Classic Battles Dorinthia versus Rhinar has a little lore book. So I really like that concept. There you go. Whew, okay. Wow, this is a lot. Products tailor-made for first play and social play experiences. There's Classic Battles, Rhinar versus Dorinthia. This is going to be, these Classic Battles packs are like the old Magic the Gathering dual decks. These ones are going to essentially be your bread and butter if you're a new player. You know, you buy the Classic Battles. I think it's MSRPing for like $50. But there's some really, really good cards in there. There's unique cards in there for the current heroes, and I believe new versions of those heroes. So it's worth picking it up whether you are starting out or a returning player or a current player. You know, you're gonna have new stuff. There's gonna be something in there for everybody. Essentially, you get 2 decks. You could take this and go to your brother, your sister, your grandma, and be like, hey, grandma, do you want to play Flesh and Blood with me? And she's gonna look at you and say, Sonny, what the hell are you talking about? But you're gonna be like, we're gonna play this trading card game. So there you go. You know, like, this is going to be a great entry product for new players. I'm very excited to see how they expand the Classic Battles line going forward. Given that the lore of Flesh and Blood is very, very fun, it's also very dark, I'm excited to see them integrate the lore more into the gameplay experience, so long as the gameplay experience does not suffer from that. I don't think it will. I have faith in LSS to make it, their own thing. PvE, oh my god. I mean, we knew about this. If you know about Flesh and Blood, you know that PvE has been something that the community has talked about for a long time so far. PvE will be their flagship social play product. It'll see players band together in a campaign setting that can be as long or as short as your party wants. That's awesome. They're putting a lot into PvE, and our expectation along with that is that many of the eagerly awaiting fans, is very high. PvE is currently under development, and we are looking to make it as good as possible. More info will be announced in the future. I love that. They're reformatting casual play formats like UPF if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering. Commander Ultimate Pit Fight is essentially Flesh and Blood's multiplayer format. It's a little bit different than Commander, but they're reformatting those casual play formats to entice more folks to play them. If you are a fan of Pauper in Magic the Gathering, there is a fan-driven Commoner format that is now officially being recognized with Commoner rules, with an actual rule set on their website. And they are adopting it as an actual casual play format called Commoner. All common cards, 40 deck cards, 40 card deck, common cards only, 11 inventory slots. It can include up to 2 rares, and all other cards must be common. So that would be a fun kind of entry format. A lot of this is competitive play. And essentially, at the end of the day, there's a lot of really good stuff here. I highly implore you to go out, read it for yourself, and if you haven't played Flesh and Blood yet, go to your local game store, say, hey, I'm interested in potentially starting to play Flesh and Blood. Do you know anybody that plays that would be willing to show me? Get out there, meet some people, be kind to each other, and have a good time playing great games. Thank you. If you like this video, drop a sub. If you want me to make more Flesh and Blood content, have at it. Tell me what you want me to do. Tell me what you want me to talk about. I will try my best to get more content out there as able. So thank you all so much for listening to me rant and read about FAB 2.0 and my life. Thank you so much and have a great week. Sin out.